Good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat. I so do appreciate you tuning in this morning. Go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Good morning, Cat and Chad. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We've got so much to get to. I do want to get to the ICE crackdown of these illegal immigrant truckers. And this has gotten more eye-opening. They are estimating about 200,000 illegal immigrant truckers are out there on our roadways here in America. And that's very eye-opening, very scary. I know, you're probably going to be taking some road trips for the holiday season. I don't know about you, but when I'm going to be, road tripping, I'm going to be looking at the 18-wheeler guy next to me, and I'm going to be wondering, is that the legal immigrant? Because 200,000 on our roadways, that's quite a lot. We're going to get to that, but we're also going to get to the fake news. RFK Jr., he fled after a man collapsed at the White House, and he didn't help the man, according to the fake news media. I'll tell you what really happened. And BFD. So I don't know about you, but Democrats, they love using foul language on social media. And, it's one thing for, a civilian, somebody that, is not in an elected position or elected office. It's one thing if they use foul language on social media. It's a whole different ballgame when you've got congressmen and women using foul language. So yeah, Eric Swanson, he used BFD. It's like internet slang. I'm pretty sure the acronym stands for big effing deal. What I'm going to call it is a big fiscal disaster. He was so excited about the Moline to Chicago rail here in the state of Illinois getting extra funding through the fall veto session. They passed a bill at 4 a.m. It was a $1.5 billion spending package for transit. It bailed out CTA, Chicago Transit Authority, because they were in a budget deficit of what was $750 million. And then they said, actually, we can actually get by with $250 million if you guys can give us that. And then only in Illinois do we pass a near $2 billion spending package, a funding package to fix a $250 million budget deficit. So yeah, the math isn't mathing, but this was a ripoff, the rail ripoff. We're going to get to that. And Eric Swanson saying BFD, I'm pretty sure that means big effing deal. And he tweeted that out, which I think it should stand for big fiscal disaster because these rails never get built. They just never get built. It's been long delayed. This rail itself from Moline to Chicago has been delayed. So we're going to talk about it, but let's get into the illegal truckers first, okay? Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. I like what Bob has to say here. No decorum. Yeah, they don't have any decorum. There's no class, okay? And I get it. If you are just, a civilian and you're using your social media, we're all adults. I get it. There's foul language. I'm doing my best. Actually, I've had a conviction on my heart as of lately. When God tries to talk to you, he'll show you 3-4 times. Okay, so 3-4 times this James chapter 3 has come up where it says you can't bless God and praise God with the same mouth you curse with. And I've got a potty mouth. If you guys watch the show, you guys kind of know that I've kind of got a potty mouth. So yeah, tighten up those screws on your mic. I gotta get my husband to do it because I'm not really, it hits me in the face all the time and I'm holding it back. It's like the screw on the arm here. And I've tried to do it. I am not a handy person. Tools and I just don't get along. It's not that I don't try. I definitely tried with this, but my husband's busy and I haven't said, hey, I need you to go fix my arm in the studio. Usually he's the guy with the screwdriver and the tool bag. And I just haven't, asked him to do it yet because it's one of those things where it bothers me in the moment, but then I forget about it by the end of the day. mean, so yes, Brian, you're so right. I do need to fix it. It probably wouldn't hit you in the face if you tighten the screws. Yeah, I know. I think that, well, I tried one screw. There's one screw that I did tighten with the screwdriver, but this one, I think it's more so the spring. I don't know. My husband's an engineer, so he'll be able to figure out what screw needs tightening or what spring needs replaced. I don't know. Um, but let's just hope it doesn't hit me in the face this morning. So yeah, I don't know where I was at. I was talking about Eric Sorensen, the language and God convicting me today. And this week really to try to watch my potty mouth. Curse, you can't bless and curse God with the same mouth. So I just find it really gross. I mean, we're all sinners, right? Saved by grace. I just find there's no decorum, no class. I mean, you're a sitting congressman, and on your official page, your Congress page, you're saying things like BFD. Yeah. Well, I'll say it's a big fiscal disaster. Okay. You might say it's BFD, a big blanking deal. But I'll call it a big fiscal disaster. The Moline to Chicago rail being funded not only with state dollars, but federal dollars. All right, let's get to the illegal truckers. As is usually the case regarding a horrific event, it takes something tragic to, in order for something to be done about it. Okay, in order for the microscope to be trained in on that issue. Joe Biden and the Democrats, they have blood on their hands. They have plenty of blood on their hands due to the waves of illegal immigrants pouring over the open border, the open southern border, wide open. I think of Laken Riley. I think of Emma Schaefer of Springfield, Gabriel Calixto, who was released under Biden's DHS. I think of Laken Riley. It took the deaths of 3 unknown people. I don't know their names, but they died on a highway. And most recently, there was 3 more who died, I believe, in California at the hands of an illegal immigrant who, barely speaks English, shouldn't be driving, not driving in the United States of America when you've got to read English road signs, okay? They're not English speaking. They're driving 18-wheelers across the country, and the story just keeps getting worse. So I'm going to share with you these numbers. And I double-checked these numbers. These are factual. Okay. This according to the Department of Transportation and Kristi Noem over at Homeland Security. 7,200 illegals with CDLs from sanctuary states were arrested under the Trump administration as of recently. The Department of Transportation counts 200,000 illegal truck drivers in total. Wow. So we have CDL mills operating and profiting while American citizens are dying on our nation's roads. This needs to stop. Okay. So there are over 200,000 active illegal alien truckers nationwide, according to Kristi Noem. Shocking number. I don't know about you, but if you're traveling for the holidays, you're going to be looking over at that 18-wheeler beside you on the highway, and you're going to be wondering, can that guy read the road signs? Does he speak English? Okay, so since the Florida crash, this was the one which was so fascinating because both of them, I think their last names were Singh, the one in California where he was intoxicated behind the wheel. And we talked about that. Multiculturalism is the worst thing that we could celebrate here in America. Not all cultures are the same. That is what multiculturalism is. You celebrate all cultures being wonderful. That's not true. The reason why illegal immigrants get behind the wheel of a car, drunk or intoxicated. This actually happened where 2 in Clayton County, I think it was Clayton County, there was an illegal alien. He got behind the wheel of a car, crashed into a county board member. And I want to make sure that I get the county, Coles County. Sorry about that, not Clayton. Coles County, Illinois. He was with his wife, Gail, Mike, and there was an illegal immigrant who crashed into them, went over the median, and apparently he, was drinking. Mike Clayton and his wife. Clayton is their last name. Sorry about that. Coles County board member and his wife, Gail, they were in a fatal car crash. And, he reckless homicide, was charged with reckless homicide and driving under the influence. His name was Juan Morales Martinez. Juan Morales Martinez was with him in the car, and he was charged with drug possession. So they had drugs and weapons in the car. But the guy who actually was intoxicated and allegedly killed and is being charged with the homicide, his name was Edwin Pacheco Meza. Okay, and they're from Honduras. Okay, Edwin is from Honduras. Martinez is from Guatemala. Okay, so I've told you before, the California crash involved illegal immigrants also being intoxicated and killing people. It's because in their culture, they don't see DUI, driving under the influence, as something that's wrong or not right, because they don't have laws like we do. For example, in some cultures, they eat dogs and cats. Here, Leviticus really talks about, unclean and clean foods. Don't eat anything with really paws is probably a good summary of Leviticus and, what to eat and what not to eat. And we have a societal norm where we don't eat our cats and dogs. That can't be said about all countries because their morality isn't derived from the Christian Bible. So DUI, drinking and driving, our Bible talks about being drunkenness and how it's wrong. There's countries that don't see that as wrong, and they get behind the wheel of a vehicle. So since the Florida crash, this one was odd. It didn't involve drugs or anything like that. There was footage of this guy. He took one of the emergency U-turns on the highway, and you're not supposed to do that, especially not in an 18-wheeler. I don't know what the hell he was thinking, but Singh was his name, his last name, and the California trucker who killed people, and he was intoxicated in California, but they both had the last name Singh. The Florida crash, he turned around, wound up killing 3 people. And since the Florida crash, the Department of Transportation and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, have become involved. Since late October, ICE, along with Oklahoma Highway Patrol, has targeted portions of Interstate 40. The operation has nabbed about 70 illegal immigrants, 34 of whom were operating semi-trucks in violation of Oklahoma state law. It's no surprise where illegals are getting their CDLs from. ICE Executive Associate Director Marcos Charles said this. He said, "For the second time in just a month, the state of Oklahoma and ICE have banded together to bolster public safety along Oklahoma's highways, identifying and apprehending illegal immigrants who are here in the country illegally and have been recklessly issued commercial driver's licenses by states like California, Illinois, and New Jersey." So this is what the ICE Enforcement Removal Operations Executive Associate Director said. He said Illinois is on that list where they're getting their CDLs from. Okay, so out of the 70 illegal immigrants, 34 of them were operating semi-trucks in violation of Oklahoma state law. Now, many of the illegals arrested behind the wheel of these, 80,000-pound tractor trailers. Okay, many of these illegals that were arrested, these 70, couldn't speak or read basic English. Okay, and they endanger everybody on the road when they do that. They're endangering everyone they encounter if you can't speak or read English. So, as is usual, the details just keep getting more disturbing about the illegal truckers. Okay, so there's an operation that's underway. It's called Operation Guardian. Okay. And they discovered that 26 of the illegal immigrants that they had apprehended, about 70, 26 of them had CDLs from states like California, Illinois, and New York. Wow. But the best part, 8 of the drivers that were operating the 18-wheelers with no CDL licenses at all. That's right. They weren't operating with any CDL at all. So 26 of the, so like I said, 70 out of the, or 34 out of the 70 that they apprehended through this operation called Operation Guardian, 34 of them were operating illegally under Oklahoma state law. 26 of them were illegal truckers who had those CDLs from states like California, Illinois, New York. And then there were 8 of them who were operating the 18-wheelers, not with a CDL, but rather no CDL at all. So the immigrant truckers picked up by Operation Guardian, they all come from countries like China, Guatemala, India. The list goes on. Okay. And a lot of them have rap sheets. A lot of them are beyond illegal immigrants, but they have had prior convictions and violent crimes on their record, and they've got quite the rap sheet. I want to share this with you. This is Tom Homan, one of my favorites in the Trump administration. Take a listen to this clip. Here we go.
We're flooding the zone. We're going to swamp those sanctuary cities with additional agents. See 10,000 more agents coming online very quickly. We're going to concentrate in sanctuary cities because we know that's where the problem is. We know they're releasing public safety threats every day. So we're going to send the resources where these sanctuary city policies are. And that's another part of the DUI, the highway safety. Secretary Noem has teamed up with, with Secretary Duffy, hell of a team there. And they're going to look at illegal aliens who are driving multi-ton vehicles down the highway at 70 miles an hour that can't read a sign, icy bridge ahead, lane ends ahead, accident ahead. It's an extreme public safety issue, so we're stepping up that enforcement too under Secretary Duffy and Secretary Noem. I think it needs to go a step further there. I think they need a highway patrol in California, Arizona, need to staff north of our port of entries, because you and I both know, because we've been there many times, the Mexican truck drivers driving the Mexican licensed trucks don't meet our standards of highway safety standards, so we need to start enforcing that also. We're flooding the zone. We're going to swamp those sanctuary cities with additional agents.
Okay, throw it in the comment section. Who is your favorite from the Trump administration? I love RFK Jr. I'm super excited about what all that RFK Jr. is doing, but I don't know. Tom Homan is a close second. Throw it in the comment section. Who is your favorite from the administration? Operation Guardian is the latest operation to date to catch illegal immigrant truckers. They've done other operations before. This is just the latest one that I'm highlighting today. And the 70 truckers they were working with Oklahoma Highway Patrol in September during a 3-day period. ICE and Oklahoma Highway Patrol picked up 91 illegals. Okay, just most recently they picked up the 70, but they picked up 91 in September. Okay, along the same stretch that I was talking about earlier where they picked up the 70, they picked up 91 back in September, the same stretch of I-40. In addition to immigration violations, others may have allegedly committed other crimes like money laundering, human smuggling, and conspiracy to distribute cocaine. See, and I've said it before, I don't think our trucking company should be foreign at all. I don't think that they should having operations, dispatch. I don't think that their operations should be conducted out of foreign countries as a matter, and it should be a matter of national security. Okay, we should have American companies here operating in America. I know it gets tough because you've got international trucking companies and you've got to truck things from Mexico to the United States, Canada to the United States. It gets complicated, but we really need to cut down or crack down on these foreign countries. And there's finally a conversation being had at the top. So this was out of Fox News, which is exciting because the national conversation has begun, where it's not just the illegals that we have to deport and get out of here and make sure these sanctuary states stop issuing the CDLs. We have to crack down on the foreign companies themselves. So it's not just cracking down on the states that issue these CDLs, that we have to focus on. Okay. The Department of Transportation also needs to be looking into the companies hiring these people. Zach Myborg, who owns Myborg Trucking in Illinois, says that the industry has been outsourced to foreign companies. He says foreign companies have no problem hiring illegal immigrants or breaking laws. Myborg added their dispatch is over there, their safety is over there, their recruiting is done all over there in these foreign countries, and they do it all digitally and online. Okay, so they're running foreign labor imported from overseas, not trained. They're paying them 1099, not W-2. They're not complying with any of the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, or state tax laws or federal tax laws. Okay, they aren't complying, these foreign companies. Okay, he adds that these companies are creating digital logbooks, they're e-logs, and they're self-certifying them. So they're manipulating it through these third-party companies, and they're not following the regulations. So the logbooks only allow truckers to drive X amount of hours. And they're not following regulations, and they're operating with very little oversight. Now, this is a great start. Operation Guardian is a great start, and Secretary Sean Duffy. And I've said it before on this program, we need to start cracking down on these foreign companies, and I don't know why that's not part of the conversation. It sounds like it's going to start being a part of the conversation, the cracking down on these companies, making sure that they're abiding by federal tax laws, state laws, abiding by safety laws, the e-log books, that they're not able to change those or manipulate those digitally. And I think we should take a step further and mandate that operations like your dispatch, your safety, your recruiting processes all be done here in America and we just cited as, hey, the reason for that is national security. So Secretary Duffy, this is a great start, but there's so much more that needs to be cleaned up due to really the mess under Joe Biden. I think that his DOT, his Department of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, looked the other way. And as someone who just in a few weeks, we're going to be going down to South Carolina, you bet I'm going to be eyeballing all of these 18-wheelers in the lane next to me. I want to share this with you. Here's another clip about this. This is the director that I was talking about earlier from ICE. Let me get this pulled up. Here we go. And here we go.
It's unconscionable that illegal aliens have CDLs and driving 18-wheelers across our nation. Of the 223 illegal aliens ICE arrested with the Indiana State Police on these roadways, over 140 of those were truck drivers, including 50 semi-trucks. Many of these illegal aliens had significant criminal histories: drug dealing, assault and battery, drunk driving, child abuse, rape, domestic violence, fraud, and prostitution. Most of these illegal aliens we arrested in this operation received their CDLs from sanctuary states, including California, Illinois, and New York. What happens in one state, like the issuance of a CDL to an illegal alien, spills over to other states. The problem is we don't know what they're carrying across state lines in an 18-wheeler. Terrorists will stop at nothing to harm the United States, and it's well within the realm of possibility that some of these trucks and some of these semi-trucks that are traversing our nation's highway could be carrying toxic chemicals, bombs, or God knows what.
Okay, so I believe that's Marcos Charles, and as I said, he was the Removal Operations Executive Associate Director with ICE. Let me double check. No, that might not be Marcos. I'm trying to find out who this fellow is. He's somebody from the administration, I believe. I'll double check for that. No, I've lost his name.
It's unconscionable that an illegal.
One thing that I wanted to point out was that we've arrested over 140 illegal alien truck drivers, many with significant criminal histories. So that's huge. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I do want to shift gears. Point is, when you're driving on the road, be careful. Look over. I know I'm going to be really curious as, we're road tripping for the holidays. Look over your shoulder and, you're going to be looking into that 18-wheeler just like me in the lane next to you, and you're going to be eyeballing them wondering, is that one of the 200,000 active illegal aliens on the road? All right. A scary medical incident happened at the White House yesterday. Now, I want to point this out because I love pointing out fake news. And I haven't done this in a while where I point out the fake news and it's just so blatant and annoying. So this happened on Thursday. There was an announcement involving two big pharmaceutical companies, and they struck a deal that would actually make drugs that have been known to aid weight loss. They're going to make them more affordable. So that was what was going on at the White House, and there was a press conference in the Oval. Now, this unidentified man, I haven't been able to find out who he is. Now, the Eli Lilly CEO, his name's David Ricks, he revealed that this man, the unidentified man, I don't have his name, was a guest of the company at the event. Okay, so he was a guest of his company, Eli Lilly. So he collapsed, this guy, when David Ricks was speaking, the CDO of Eli Lilly. This is a medicine company. And they announced that they were going to make some weight loss drugs cheaper. They were holding a press conference about it, and this guy collapsed. Okay. So the Centers for Medicine and Medicaid Services Administrator, Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz, was in attendance, and he stepped in to assist the guy that had collapsed. He noticed that he was going to collapse. He lunged and he tried to help the gentleman. And there were several other White House staffers who jumped in. Now, in case you missed the clip, I've got it right here for you. If you haven't seen it, here it is.
And creating high-value jobs. But today, are you okay? Gordon, you okay?
I think he says, Gordon, are you okay?
Yeah.
I think he's well, he's a guest of the company. That's what.
Press out. Press. We're going. Thank you, press. Press. Right, guys. Cameras. We're done rolling. Cameras.
Okay. So, in case you missed the clip, there it is. As indicated by the clip, you can see here where RFK, he kind of bolts out, like, boom, takes off and gets out of the room, right? He bolts out of the room. Okay. And you can see that he's quickly exiting the room there in the clip. And another person, follows behind him, the guy in the blue tie, right? Okay, so another guy quickly follows behind him. Now, any normal person, I watched that, and, when I was watching it, I was like, oh, RFK went to go get help. Like any normal person would think, I'm sure he's getting additional medical assistance. But of course, the hacks in the mainstream media did not think that was a possibility, or did not even somehow think that would remotely be a possibility. So the mainstream media, they said that RFK Jr. booked it out of the room because, I don't know, he's a jerk or a jackwagon, or didn't care about the guy that had the medical emergency, I guess. They hate RFK Jr., which is so fascinating because RFK Jr. was one of them, is one of them. He's not by any means a super conservative. And I would push back a little bit, Brian, and say RFK Jr. would have been president had it not been for his voice. He's very wishy-washy, and Americans really don't like that. They like convicted people. RFK Jr., when it comes to things like hot topics like abortion, okay, like it or not, abortion, really is an issue. He might have won because there's a ton of abortionists out there, feminazis, but he's sort of wishy-washy on it, and I don't think the American electorate likes wishy-washy or muddy candidates. They like people who are convicted. Now, RFK Jr., he's definitely more pro-choice than he is pro-life. Now, there's some people who go out there and vote abortion only. So it could have been a possibility. RFK Jr. had it not been for his voice. Yeah, the voice, it's tough. I don't think that would have, more so, I think the wishy-washiness of his policy surrounding abortion would have gotten him either elected or not elected. But there is this mood in the country where we're kind of shifting away from abortion, and we've got more science than ever shows us that a life, is present in the womb, and it's not as, or it's kind of taboo to be pro-choice, or it's becoming more taboo, or weird, or not accepted by society. Anyway, so to get back to the mainstream media and what they had to say about RFK Jr., for some odd reason, they can't stand the guy. They say for the same reason they can't stand Donald Trump. It's because Donald Trump was and really is one of them. Donald Trump isn't as conservative as I would like him to be. RFK Jr. isn't as conservative as I would like him to be. I think they're both great for the country because they're truly centrist. People will laugh when they hear me call Donald Trump a centrist. He truly is a centrist. For example, the SNAP stuff. I'm not really too excited about that. The federal judge saying that you have to fully fund SNAP or partially fund SNAP. I think that's silly. We have to get rid of the filibuster rule if that's, what we're going to do. Because right now, the rule is there, the filibuster rule. You have to have 60 votes. And taxpayers have to have representation. Okay, you can't have taxation without representation. And we elected representatives to go down there and vote on spending bills. If they just spend money without a vote, that's not super conservative. That's not a Republican platform. If you go there and you tax and spend without votes. Okay, that's the executive branch, and he's allocated money to WIC, veterans programs through the government shutdown. I think that the filibuster rule is dumb. He's a CEO. He's got hard decisions to make. Think of him as the CEO of the company. He's got hard decisions to make. Hey, we have to fund these programs. Let me get creative with the math here and how to fund these programs like WIC. I say don't fund SNAP at all until the Democrats come back and vote and we get the 60. Okay, because that's called taxation with representation. So anyway, Donald Trump centrist, RFK centrist, and they don't like that they have turned on them on certain issues and aren't as far left as they would prefer. RFK Jr. and Donald Trump are. Donald Trump isn't necessarily all that conservative when it comes to IVF. A lot of conservatives believe, hey, IVF, you're creating unborn babies and then you're just discarding these embryos, and we're all about life starting at conception. Donald Trump is pro IVF, so he's definitely more of a centrist than you would think, or than what the mainstream media would tell you. So the mainstream media hates RFK Jr. and Donald Trump because they're true centrists, and they won't go bend the knee and be as far left as they are. So Fox 7 Austin, Texas anchor, His name is Alec Nolan. And he wrote on his X page that RFK Jr. booked it out of the room, and he didn't even have like critical thinking skills, I guess, Alec Nolan here. And he didn't speculate that, hey, maybe RFK Jr. booked it out of the room because he was, I don't know, getting some extra help. Okay, so here it is. Alec Nolan, he says, RFK Jr. books it out after this pharmaceutical executive appears to collapse during a White House announcement on weight loss drugs. So that's Alec Nolan. He's with the mainstream news, Fox 7 Austin, Texas. And then the notorious pseudo-journalist, Aaron Rupar. He has over 1 million followers on X. He poured on the sensationalism real thick, and he had this falsehood up there on X, and he claimed that RFK Jr.'s response to someone collapsing near him was to haul ass out of the room as quickly as possible. And I will show you Aaron Rupar's tweet so you guys can see it. There you are. RFK Jr.'s response to somebody collapsing was to haul ass out of the room as quickly as possible. Okay, another one. We had Ed Krastenstein. He has over 1 million followers on X. So this is really important, folks, because these people, like it or not, they're influencers and they have influence. This is a far left influencer, and he got in on the action. And a lot of other, leftist thought leaders or influencers with similar follower accounts got in on the action, and they're spreading misinformation. RFK Jr. flees the scene after executive Gordon Finley. Okay, so that's his name, Gordon. Gordon Finley collapsed in the Oval Office. Okay, so here you have left wing. There we go. Let me pull that up. There you go. Gordon Finley, he collapses in the Oval Office and he flees from the scene. From the scene. This is what Ed Krastenstein put on his social media. And like I said, over 1 million followers. And a lot of these far left influencers were spreading misinformation. We, of course, know, according to the White House Deputy Press Secretary, Kush Desai, that RFK indeed left the room quickly because he was getting medical attention. Okay, when somebody collapses in the room, you got to get them out of there. You got to find medical assistance, a gurney, an ambulance. I don't know. RFK Jr. knew what was going on, and he decided to go get help. Right? None of them there had the equipment to, aid in somebody's collapse. So, here's what the White House press secretary, deputy press secretary said. The secretary rushed out to get medical assistance while others tended to the man. You ghoul. These people are ridiculous. Like the moment I saw that, I knew what was going on. I didn't think RFK Jr. booked it out of the room to avoid helping a man who's collapsing and having a medical emergency. According to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, the man who collapsed is fortunately okay. The same cannot be said for these frauds in the mainstream media and the very far online left influencer crowd. They have proven to us again this morning that they cannot be trusted, and that mainstream media, is at an all-time low. And this is a reminder: don't believe everything you see on social media or what your social media influencer tweets out. You got to research it and verify it for yourself. And I say that about myself as well. Research, verify yourself. I like to provide you references throughout the show. And I myself love reporting, investigative journalism reporting. I, do that in my free time. I love coming up with FOIA requests and things like that. So I do due diligence on most of the stories I bring you. But I am telling you, don't always trust everything somebody puts out there on social media. Trust, verify, Verify before trusting it completely. Okay. So I want to get to this. This is kind of important. I told you yesterday about the airports that are going to have a reduction in the number of flights due to the Schumer shutdown. And the list has been released. There's 40 airports, and I won't go over all of them, but I will flash them up here on the screen for you because I think it's sort of important. And you might be flying out of Chicago or O'Hare and expect your flight to be delayed because major international hubs like Los Angeles International Airport, others, the Chicago Midway, Chicago O'Hare, they are going to be affected. They're on this list of 40 airports that are going to have a reduction in the number of flights. Okay, so on Thursday, the FAA released a list of airports. Yesterday, they listed the list that are going to be affected in order really to ensure safety. Okay, because the air traffic controllers, they haven't been paid since October 1st. They've missed like a couple paychecks at this point. So they're dealing with shortages of air traffic controllers because, hey, they're not getting paid. They're not showing up to work. And it's because of this ongoing closure of the government because the Democrats refused to pass a clean continuing resolution. They voted, I think so far, like 14 different times against the CR. Okay, so here is part of the list. I will flash these up for you. ABC had posted, whoop, the microphone slapped me in the face. I'm telling you, you need to fix the screws on this thing. Stay. Okay. Here's the list. Okay, some of the list, and then I'll show you part 2 of the list because they posted a second post that included the rest of the airports. Okay, so there's that. You'll probably see Chicago Midway on there, Chicago O'Hare. This is kind of important, especially as we approach the holidays. The Thanksgiving, there's another list here. There you go. I'll leave that up there for a quick second. United Airlines, United and American Airlines, they released statements about the reduction of flights and what passengers should know ahead of the November 7th. So today, they are going to be reducing their flights. So they released statements and tried to help passengers understand how to plan for these cuts. And they encourage them to check their airline apps for the latest information about their flights. I'll get to the statement here in just a second. Need some coffee. I put a lot of milk in my coffee this time. Usually I do a little bit of milk. But I put a lot in there this morning. Okay. So the statements from United Airlines, and then I'll get to American Airlines. It's pretty similar. These reductions will start today, Friday, November 7th. And we will continue to make rolling updates to our schedule so we can provide several days advance notice. So they're going to do their best to try to provide you several days advance notice of when your flight's delayed or canceled. If your flight is impacted, we will notify you in advance via the United app, our website, or a text. Okay, United's long-haul, international, and hub-to-hub flights will not be impacted. Instead, the focus is on scheduled reductions to regional and domestic mainline flights that do not travel between our hub airports. Okay, any customer traveling during this period of time is eligible for a refund. So that's a big one. Even if your flight is not impacted, that includes all non-refundable basic economy tickets. So any customer traveling during this time is eligible for a refund, even if your flight is not impacted. So I think probably part of the reason would be you're traveling, the airports are full. I don't know if you've seen the drone footage, but it's kind of insane how many people are there waiting for their flights being delayed. You are eligible for a refund, even if your flight wasn't delayed or canceled with United Airlines. And it includes all non-refundable basic economy tickets. So there was a statement from American Airlines as well. I'll get that out of there. All flights today will operate as planned, and they released this on Thursday. We expect a vast majority of our customers' travel will be unaffected. Our long-haul international travel will remain as scheduled. We're proactively reaching out to customers who are impacted to provide additional flexibility. During the impacted travel period, customers whose flights are canceled for any reason will be able to change their flight or request a refund without any penalty. So, they're issuing refunds. We're getting to a point in the government's shutdown where people are starting to get affected by it. Normal people who are flying, traveling, that's starting to affect you. Democrats need to get it together. So on Wednesday, the FFA said that they're going to start today, Friday morning, a reduction in air traffic by 10% across 40 high volume markets. So 40 airports, and I flashed them up on the screen for you, to maintain safety and ease the pressure on the air traffic controllers who have been working without pay due to the shutdown, and it causes major staffing shortages. So if you're not working without pay, it's hard to get people to work there and show up to work, right? So Secretary of Transportation John Duffy said that the reduction in flight capacity at these airlines was necessary due to the shutdown, which has resulted in air traffic control working but not getting paid since October 1st. Now, on Thursday, this is a new development. President Donald Trump was asked if people should worry about their safety. I don't know if I would want to go flying right now, being that they're reducing, and there's not a ton of air traffic controllers. And Donald Trump was asked about the safety amid the news of the airport cuts. And he assured people that they should not be worried. Here is Donald Trump addressing the question. Here we go. Sorry, I'm going to pull this up here.
Flights at the top 40 airports because of the government shutdown. Are you at all concerned that it might not be safe to fly right now? And what do you tell people who are here?
No, that's why they're cutting. Yeah, fair question. As Sean Duffy announced, they're cutting in certain areas 10%, and they want to make sure it's 100% safe. That's why they're doing it.
Mr. President, given these...
Concerned that the FAA is going to have to cut about...
Okay, so they seem unworried. They're not worried about this. They're being proactive. So he said Sean Duffy announced that they're cutting 10% of flights. They want to make sure it's 100% safe. That's why they're doing it. So it's starting to affect you, the government shutdown. It's starting to approach, I think, one of the longest government shutdowns we've ever had up to this point, I've said. And it's still, unless you're traveling via plane, it's still not really affecting most people. Now, the SNAP people, the people who abuse the SNAP card, and it's going to affect them and public sector workers. But public sector workers, like I've said before, they're not exempt from layoffs. They're not exempt from their business going belly up, which is kind of what's going on here. It's a temporary. It's like temporarily being laid off or furloughed, right? And the private sector has to deal with that kind of stuff all of the time. And the public sector isn't exempt from real life. Okay. And they're lucky because government shutdown has happened several times. It's around the same time of year. It's always a possibility. So they've had advance warning. People who work in the private sector, sometimes you don't know if your company's going belly up. And then one day you walk in and your boss fires you or says, hey, we're closing down. So excuse me if I don't shed a tear for all the air traffic controllers. I appreciate the work they're doing, but just because they do it for the public sector doesn't mean that they're guaranteed the job, okay, or guaranteed pay. So that's just how I feel. I won't cry because the public sector employees aren't getting paid. This kind of stuff happens in the private sector all the time. I hope that the Democrats, come back and there's this ACA talk, the Affordable Care Act. They want those tax credits back, and in exchange for voting for voting to end the shutdown, they want to have these ACA talks and have a vote on it. But they're trying to get the filibuster for the ACA tax credits there. And Senator Thune has said, no, we're not doing that. We're going to keep the filibuster there for the ACA tax credits, just like the filibusters here for the government funding for the continuing resolution. So nice try, Dems. Dems have privately had conversations about trying to end the filibuster for the ACA, for the Affordable Care Act tax credit vote. I hope that the Republicans don't allow the Democrats to get what they want and to end that filibuster. They don't think that they can get to the 60 in the Senate. The Senate leaders, you've got your Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. That's why they want to end the filibuster, because they won't get to the 60 for the ACA, which would be explosive, because we could make it better ACA, or we could just kind of phase it into oblivion. It's making premiums higher. It's making healthcare. Think about this. You give people a ton of money via tax credits for healthcare. And what are the hospitals going to do? They're going to charge $15 for Kleenex boxes. Or $50 for a Tylenol at the hospital. Okay, have you ever wondered why a box of Kleenex is $15 at the hospital, or a Tylenol is $50 to $2 Tylenol or $50 when you can go to the store and buy it for a fraction of that cost? It's because they know that these tax credits, this ACA tax credit is out there, and people have money, or at least government money, and then they skyrocket the cost of healthcare. So I'd be all right with them going into oblivion. Anyway, let's talk about the $1.5 billion subsidy. Welcome to the Conservative Cat Show. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. Go get your bottle of Patriot Pump today. This is our premium pre-workout. This is the fruit punch flavor. Absolutely delicious. You mix a scoop of it with 8 to 12 fluid ounces. You can do a scoop and a half for a little bit extra caffeine. But there's 150 milligrams, and we pair it with black pepper extract that kind of helps the caffeine last a little bit longer. There's all kinds of great things in here, like L-citrulline, creatine, all kinds of great stuff to keep you moving all day long. It's better than your energy drinks, and it's more affordable than buying a $5 energy drink at the gas station every single day. Okay, so especially when you use the promo code ConservativeCat at checkout. All right, today we are talking about the so-called big win for the Quad Cities, the long-delayed Moline to Chicago passenger rail project. Now, they secured money for this project through the $1.5 billion transit package that passed in the wee hours of Halloween. Okay, like at 4 a.m. on Halloween. Okay, that's billion with a B, $1.5 billion. Now, the $1.5 billion isn't just going to the rail. It's going to bail out Chicago Transit Authority, because they were running a budget deficit of what used to be 750. Then they came back and they said, well, it's not 750. We can deal with just getting 250 million rather than the 750 million. And then lawmakers, what they did, they passed a bill for 1.5 billion. So they're fixing a $250 million problem with a $2 billion funding package. That makes a ton of sense. So Eric Swanson, and I'm quoting him here, he called it a BFD. I didn't know what BFD meant, so I looked it up. I think it means big effing deal. He says that this is a big effing deal. I don't know. I just don't like when congressmen, women use foul language like that on social media, especially on their official pages. I think it's not very classy. There's, as somebody put it, no decorum anymore. So he said, we're closer than ever to having trains run from Moline to Chicago. I don't know why somebody would want to go to Moline to Chicago, a commute 150 miles away or something like that. Seems kind of outright. Like, are they thinking that people who work in Chicago will live in Moline and commute to Chicago via the rail? That's outrageous. It's stupid. He says we're closer closer than ever to having these trains run. Yeah, I don't think so. These rail projects, they never actually come to fruition. I think we're closer to bankruptcy thanks to projects like this. And rather than BFD, a big effing deal, as Eric Swanson would say, I think it's more like a big fiscal disaster. Let's unpack it. Smash that like button. So lawmakers in Springfield, the ones that can't balance a budget, have ballooned our budget from $30 billion to $50 billion in just a short period of time from 2017 to 2017. I think it's 2017 to 2025. Pretty short period of time. They've ballooned it by like almost double our budget, how much we spend. They can't fix the pension system. We're $150 billion in pension debt. For comparison, Michigan is only $24 billion in pension debt, which I found fascinating. I found that out on Caleb Hammer's show when he did a financial audit of Gretchen Whitmer's state, Michigan. But anyway, they decided in the witching hours of Halloween to pass this $1.5 billion transit package. And it goes towards all kinds of things. It doesn't just go towards this rail from Moline to Chicago. It goes to bail out CTA from their budget deficit and a ton of other projects. So State Senator Don DeWitt, Republican, he said that the bill passed at about 4 a.m. in the morning. Everybody was asleep because nothing says responsible government like a secret spending spree in the dead of night, right? So Don DeWitt, he called this bill exactly what it is, a Christmas tree bill, and I absolutely love it. He's quoted. He says, lawmakers hang their pet projects on this bill. So it could be the rail to Moline, or from Moline to Chicago. It could be securing funding for electric buses, an electric bus fleet, and a said representative and ex-representative's district. Bike paths, extra bike paths in ex-representative's district. Even airport handouts, okay? All of that was included in this $1.5 trillion, or billion dollar, sorry, not trillion, billion. Gosh, this thing is hitting me in the face. I'm about sick of it. I gotta fix it. I know. But I'm not really a handy person. I gotta get my husband to fix it because I am a weak girl with weak little girl arms. Okay. So Illinois, this is Illinois' version. This bill is Illinois' version of Oprah, right? You get a train, you get a bus, you get a bike lane. Everybody gets taxpayer money. Okay. And except for you, dear taxpayer, you get the bill for all of it. So Congressman Eric Swanson, he took to social media and called it a BFD for the Quad Cities. Now, I'll let you decide what that acronym stands for. I looked it up, and from what I understand, it stands for big blanking deal. But I can tell you this, what I think it stands for is a big fiscal disaster. So Sorensen, he bragged that the state, combined now with federal funds secured by former Congresswoman Sherry Bustos and Eric Sorensen, that combined funding is going to go towards the Moline Chicago rail. Oh, good. Because nothing says success like using our money twice, once at a state level, once at a federal level, to fund the same train nobody really asked for and nobody probably will use. Okay, now if it was a high rail, those things are really cool. High-speed rail, foreign countries are beating us in that high-speed rail. But here in America, like, we dish all kinds of money out for those high-speed rails, and then they never get built. And I'll get to why here in just a second. But they don't know how much this thing is going to cost. This is just a regular rail to Moline to Chicago. It's not high speed. Okay, maybe passengers would use it if it was high speed. People who live in Moline could get jobs in Chicago, commute to Chicago on the high speed rail, but nobody's going to sit on a train for multiple hours to commute to work. Okay. They might take a Chicago weekend trip, but is it really worth all of the money that we're going to dump into this at a federal level and now at a state level, because they included some of the state funds or some state funding in this recent 1.5 transit package? Anyway, so they don't know how much this is going to cost. They don't know how many passengers are going to ride it. They haven't done any of the studies to figure out how many passengers will ride it, but the money's already spent. Money's already allocated to it. Okay. That's not infrastructure. That's insanity. And I've always found it fascinating here in the state of Illinois. We don't do the feasibility studies. We don't do studies to first before we secure the funding. Okay. And, I think it's delusional that the government believes that they can engineer prosperity if they lay enough tracks down, enough rail down. It's just delusional. So as history shows, every public transit revival ends the same way. Empty trains, massive subsidies, and politicians patting themselves on the back at ribbon cutting ceremonies. And we just spent a bunch of money on something that nobody really ever uses, or not enough people use it to justify the billions that were poured into it. So I want to get to the unfinished projects and why this is the high-speed rail. Countries beat us at it all the time, and we have dedicated all kinds of money to high-speed rails. And Sean Duffy said, enough's enough. We're done doing this, because it's really just fantasy. So this isn't Illinois' first railroad fantasy, the Moline to Chicago. State Senator Don DeWitt, he actually pointed out the Elgin to Rockford rail extension. And, this project has been said, coming soon. Same with Moline to Chicago, coming soon. Probably since I was in high school. But what's going on here? Cities along that route, the Elgin to Rockford rail extension, have opted out of it passing through their communities. Okay, cities, major cities. Huntley in McHenry County, this is one of the largest cities, and they opted out of this extension, and they said, no thanks. We don't want the extension to pass through here. So that's less riders, less passengers, less revenue coming in. The state has fewer this extension would have fewer riders, less revenue, more subsidies. Right? That's what that means. And municipalities aren't chipping in for these rail projects, or these localities are not chipping in for these rail projects. So who has to step in? The state, which is, as I've told you, $1 billion in debt, pension debt, can't balance the budget, where it's a fiscal mess here in the state of Illinois. So this is a textbook case of what happens when bureaucrats play conductor, this Elgin thing. And we can expect similar things to happen with this Moline to Chicago rail, where you're going to have major cities opting out of this. They don't want the extension, or they aren't going to fund the extension or part of it. And you can bet your bottom tax dollar that the same thing is going to happen with Moline to Chicago. That happened with the Elgin to Rockford rail extension. Okay. So they overspend, they underdeliver, and then they ask for yet another billion to finish what they started. But they didn't even do their due diligence before they started to say, oh yes, this is definitely needed and wanted, this project. Okay. So here's what the left never tells you. Government does not create value. They redistribute it. When you spend $1.5 billion on transit, and I don't know how much exactly is going to the Moline Chicago rail, that money doesn't magically appear. Okay. It's taken from small businesses, families, and workers like you and I who earn it. And then it's taken for this project. Meanwhile, they didn't do any kind of ridership projections. Those don't exist at all. And all of this is built on fantasy math. And politicians just assume that tens of thousands of commuters are going to take this Moline to Chicago train, and everyone, in the Quad Cities landed a job in Chicago, and they're going to want to commute hours to Chicago via train. Like, let's be real. Most people who live in Moline work in Moline. Most people, and this is an American thing. We like to live 20 minutes away from work. That is like 20 to 30 minutes away from work. We don't like to work right where we live in a city. It's that suburban lifestyle. Okay, that's just the way the American family has preferred to live their lives. They shop locally. Most people won't even travel more than 30 minutes outside of their hometown. So we're just not a commuting public transit type culture. We're just not willing to commute 150 miles to Chicago to work. Okay. So this is political theater. Let's be honest here. This is just a way for Eric Swanson to release press releases. Oh, I secured federal funding for this thing for you guys in my district. Okay. So why pass it? If it's all political theater, it's got to be more than just so Eric Swanson can pat himself at the back on the back at the ribbon cutting ceremony, or post an X post that says, "Oh, I was a part of this. I secured funding for this project." So why pass it? Because these infrastructure projects are the perfect cover. Okay, it allows politicians this project, and it allows these politicians to funnel taxpayer money to construction firms, to unions, and to friendly donors, all while claiming that they're creating jobs. They're going to funnel all kinds of taxpayer money for this union. It's a contract, right, to lay the rail for these construction firms, to lay the rail down, and they funnel the taxpayer money. And in exchange, those unions back that said politician who secured the funds the next campaign and donate to their campaign coffers. And the politician can create a press release that says, "Oh, I created jobs by securing the taxpayer funding for this project." Really what you're doing is you're buying these people off, and then they're in turn thanking you in kind with a donation. So it's classic Illinois cronyism, and it's all dressed up in hard hats and reflective vests and State Senator Don DeWitt, he nailed it. He said there's a reason why these bills pass at 4 a.m. in the morning. Because if they did at noon, people would be awake, and then they'd start to ask questions, right? And they'd have to explain, "Hey, did you do a ridership feasibility study? Did you do the study that would suggest that this is needed and that people from Moline actually want to go to Chicago for whatever reason? Are local governments going to be on board, fully on board? Are they going to want the rail to pass through their communities? Are they going to contribute locally with local tax dollars? And why are taxpayers footing the bill if we don't even know the cost of this thing yet?" Those are questions that would come about if they did this when everybody was awake. Now I want to talk about something that the Illinois media will not touch. What I said about the Chicago Transit Authority and how they were in a budget deficit. It was $750 million at one point was the number. And I guess they said, "Oh, well, legislature, if you can't give us the $750 million, which they attempted late in the spring session to pass a $1.50 delivery tax on people. It was a fee, and they were going to use that. So say you ordered a pizza, there would be an extra $1.50 added to your pizza to pay to bail out Chicago Transit Authority because of their budget deficit. Okay, it was $750 million, but at some point it got down to $250 million, and they said, we'll be okay with $250 mil. Okay, so now I'm really questioning if you guys even need it at all. But anyway, we filled that with a $1.5 billion spending package. Now, the Illinois media won't touch this. State Senator Don DeWitt says that now that this thing has passed, he's hoping that the city and the collar counties are going to have equitable representation, because he's really worried about the Northern Transit Board. There's all new representation on this, and a lot of them, he's worried that they will not consider the collar county. So apparently there's tons of bus stops, and I'm not really well informed about the CTA, because to be quite frank with you, I prefer rideshare. I think most people do. It's quicker, it's easy, it's probably safer than riding the CTA or riding the trains and the CTA trains. It's probably safer. And, it takes less time. So I prefer rideshare. So I'm not super privy to how the collar counties use the CTA. But apparently there's bus stops everywhere, in these suburban type counties surrounding Chicago. Now there's a board who's going to decide how the money gets spent. Okay. How the funds are spent. And he's hoping, State Senator Don DeWitt, that Chicago, won't swallow up the whole pie, right? Before anybody else gets a slice. And yeah, I'm hoping that, despite this board being made up of people who are probably buddy with Brandon Johnson, the governor, I'm hoping that they consider places like Lake County, DuPage County, who use the commuter rail. And these are people who, truly use it. These are people who are middle class, upper middle class, and they're commuting into the city. And like I said, 20, 30 minutes, and they're commuting into the city for work. The people who are living in the city, are they really using the train? No, because they're in the city. I think that the people who really use it would be these collar counties. But under this kind of legislation, billions get, tacked on. There's millions that get tacked on for these pet projects. Think of that Christmas tree. All of the legislators, they see this transit package, funding package, and they're like, well, I actually want some more bike paths in my district. I actually want this Moline Chicago rail in my district. And they start hanging their ornaments on the trees. But none of these pet projects actually serve the communities. Okay. Bike paths, a rail that didn't have any studies done. It's all about political optics. And again, it's not really about the infrastructure itself. It's about paying the union to go out there and pretend or do some of the project. And, I secured jobs for my community. But then the union turns around and says, oh, well, thank you so much for securing funneling those taxpayer funds to us in this union contract for us to build this rail. Next go around, when you're up for re-election, we'll be sure to donate. We'll be sure to back you and support you. Okay, so it's all political optics, and it's to serve political optics. It's really a tragedy. So I picture it like this, okay? It's 4 a.m. in Springfield. The fluorescent lights, they're flickering, right? They're humming. And the lawmakers, they're all drowsy, half asleep, but they're fully owned. And they're, flipping through this 900-page transit funding package bill, okay? And one guy says, wait, how much for the Moline rail? And another says, don't worry about it. It's just taxpayer money that's going to go towards the Moline rail. And then they all nod and they sip their little lattes, their lobbyist bought lattes, and they hit the yes button and they vote yes for it. Okay, because it's not their money. It's your money. And they've got no problem spending somebody else's money. Okay, that is the spirit of 4 a.m. in Illinois government, the witching hour of waste. So let's take a moment and talk about this via a biblical lens. Okay, God calls us to steward our resources, not squander them. Okay, Luke 16:10 says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Whoever is dishonest with very little is also dishonest with much. So if our leaders can't be trusted with $1, how can we trust them with $1 billion? Okay, wise government plans before they secure funding for this project. They would plan out the project and figure out if the project is actually needed. You do that in your house, right? We are remodeling our bathroom and we created a plan. Well, do we want a bathtub in there? What kind of bathtub do we want in there? What kind of toilet do we want in there? Are these things that need to be replaced, or can we keep the same toilet? You kind of plan, then you save up, and then you do the project. Then you allocate the funds for that project. But they've got it all backwards. They allocate the funds and then they say, okay, it's going to take us, more money than we thought. Let's go back to the taxpayer and ask them for more. An unwise borrower, they will burn through cash. And that's really what's going on in Illinois. So we're living in a state where politicians worship spending. They love it. There's a better way. So before any new rail, the state should require, and here is my way of going about this. If you wanted the rail, here is how you should go about it. Not at 4 a.m. with no studies, no idea of how many passengers will actually take the rail. Here's what I would suggest the state do before any rail project or any project at all. Complete a public feasibility study with transparent cost and ridership data. Ask people, conduct studies. I don't care if you have to put in the mail, surveys in the mail, right? Ask the residents in Moline if they're going to ride the train and how long they would ride the train, how many days a week they would ride the train, and conduct a study, a ridership and collect that ridership data. And then you need to ask the local city. So Moline to Chicago, there's lots of cities in between there. Ask the local cities, do you want it here? And would you mind contributing? Before we spend all kinds of state dollars on this, how much are you willing to contribute? Do you really want it here? And how much are you willing to spend on this for it to pass through your community? Okay, very simple. It's a 4-step plan that I came up with. Study and figure out the feasibility study and collect ridership data. Number 2, get the sentiment, okay, from the localities that are going to be involved in this. Number 3, annual audits. So every year the project is, they're laying down rail, and prior to them laying down rail, conduct an audit, okay, with an independent watchdog. So not the same, Springfield Insiders. Get an independent watchdog to conduct an audit. Hey, this year with, I don't know how much, I'm just going to throw a number out there. Out of the 1.5 billion, they allocated 5 million. Okay. To this Moline, Chicago. I don't know what the exact number is, but we gave them 5 million out of this transit funding package. Conduct an audit and say, okay, how did you use that 5 million? Okay, and have an independent watchdog look over that 5 million and make sure that it's going towards the advancement of the project. Okay, and then this one I really like. What we could do is a sunset clause. So if ridership or revenue fails to meet projections, and I understand, you can't for sure know exactly everything about this project and what it'll bring in. Sometimes you have to allocate funding in order to do those studies, those preliminary studies. I get that. But if we are conducting those preliminary studies and allocating, say, the 5 million out of the 1.5 billion to do more studies and to figure out how to go about this project, this major project. And if we're seeing that ridership and revenue streams fail, the localities aren't for it, they don't want to contribute. If foreseeing that not a lot of people are answering the survey, or not a lot of people have answered the survey and said that they will write it. If those aren't meeting our projections, then the funding ends. Okay, then all you get is the $5 million. I feel like a lot of times we allocate money to these big projects, and we all know the true reason behind it, right? To give the money to the unions, and then the unions keep getting those politicians reelected because they funnel the taxpayer money into those union contracts. And it's a way of thanking them. Okay. Thank you for giving us money. We'll give you money back through a political donation. We'll create a PAC and we'll donate to your campaign next time you're up for reelection. Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, Representative. Okay, we know the real reason behind all of this, but I feel like once we start funding a project, we have this like, oh, we've already dumped 5 million into it. Why not dump another 10, 20 million into it so that way we get this project done? Sometimes you just have to call it quits. Okay, if you dump $5 million into it to really study the ridership, really figure out what localities will want to be on board, and you come up empty, and you're like, oh, this is really not working, pull the plug. It's okay. You got to put a sunset clause in there. Okay, after 5 years and we still haven't laid any track down, pull the funding. Let's stop funding this thing. Okay. Even if you have laid track down and you're finding that the project is just going to be way too expensive, pull it. Okay. So that's actually what happened, in my own personal finding, right? Our bathroom, we wanted, we were trying to get by with, this tub that we have. It's an older tub and I wanted a newer one because, but we realized, hey, the project isn't going exactly as planned. It's probably going to cost us a little bit more for the drywall. It's going to cost us a little more for XYZ. We're going to have to pull this part of the project where we get the brand new tub, and we're going to have to use the old tub, right? So we do this in our personal lives all the time. I don't know why government can't practice real accountability. Okay, so friends, this is bigger than one train. I brought this story up because it really shows you the direction of Illinois, literally and figuratively, because it's a train. Get it? Are we as a state going to keep borrowing from our children's children to fund these fantasy projects that never really get done? Or are we going to have a state that wakes up, breaks this addiction to government solutions and spending? And are we going to return to local control, free markets, faith? Because right now, we're riding the rails right into debt, okay? And the only station at the end of this line is called insolvency. So as State Senator Don DeWitt warned, until they start looking at, what the potential passenger flow might be, we don't have a clue of how much this is actually going to cost. And next year, they're going to pass another $1.5 billion, and then another $5 million will be allocated to this rail, and another and another. And they don't do any audits. They don't do any true ridership studies. And they're just going to keep asking for money and funneling that money into these unions to lay down the rail, but they never actually lay it down. And actually, the unions are like, oh, thank you so much for the money. We're going to take some of that money back. It's money laundering. We're going to take some of that money and we're going to give it back to you so that way you keep getting reelected, because then everybody's making money. So BFD, a big effing win, as Eric Sorensen puts it, for the Quad Cities. Nah, I will call it what it is. It is a big fiscal disaster for people who pay the bills, and that's you and me. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'm going to take a quick break, but we're going to come back. I've got some funny clips that I want to share with you here for your Friday. This is a Nicaraguan refugee. Okay, but he's transgender. Okay, so he's a man pretending to be a woman, and he is just beside himself. He has really just taken this food stamp benefit thing hard. And he was questioned by a reporter, and he actually starts crying. So if you want to see a grown man cry who's dressed up, he's a Nicaraguan refugee. If you want to see a grown man cry, come back after the break. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this out with your friends. It's Friday. Okay, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. We are going to get to the grown man crying here in just a second. I do want to get to Lisa's comment. So how is the guy? I'm assuming you're talking about the fella who his name was Gordon Finley. He was a pharmaceutical executive who was there as a guest, I believe, of one of the companies that was there. The companies were touting that they've reached a deal with the government that they were going to lower the cost of these two weight loss drugs. It was a press conference, and somebody like fell down and collapsed during the press conference. And the fake news media, they said that RFK Jr. Ran out of the room when somebody collapsed, and he just booked it out of there. And that's his response to somebody collapsing. And that how could he just doesn't care or have any kind of compassion. That wasn't true, of course. RFK Jr. booked it out of the room so that way he could go get medical assistance for the guy, because RFK Jr. is an alpha male, and he understands that, hey, all of us surrounding him isn't going to do much good. This guy needs medical attention. So RFK Jr., being the alpha male that he is, he ran out of the room and got help, medical assistance. But his name was Gordon Finley. He collapsed, and you asked if do we know if this guy's okay? Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, did say that he is okay, but that's all I know. I've tried to dig into, why he collapsed. I want or any of that. They might be keeping it kind of hush hush because it might be personal medical information that he doesn't want out there. I don't know, but the White House press secretary said that he is fortunately okay. Don't know why he passed out. Sorry. I wish I had more information for you. If I ever find it out, I'll be sure to bring it to you, Lisa. But thanks for commenting. The public transit system in both Chicago and across the state are designed to economically oppress our private sector through inordinate, huge increases in taxation, thereby gaining government control of the economy. Yeah, our local bus system is a tiny micro example. You're probably in Bloomington, so Connect Transit, I think, is what you're talking about. Our local bus system is a tiny micro example of exactly what is happening. Yeah. Well, they know. So the public sector, they know that they're irrelevant. A lot of people don't interact with the government on a day-to-day basis. Okay. And in fact, they force you to interact with them. So for example, the DMV, you have to go get your registration renewed. And you have to pay them, what is it now? Like $150 at this point in the state of Illinois. You have to get your vehicle registered every single year. So they force you to interact with them. That is what public transit is. It's a forced interaction. They want to force people into public transit, and they know that it's not the preferred method of travel. I don't know if that's an American culture thing. I think it's a little bit of an American culture thing, and the private sector just does it better. For example, rideshare. At the click of my phone, I can have an Uber at my house within 8 minutes. You know what I mean? Or DoorDash, or, all of these things. The private sector has done it better, more efficiently, I mean, so public transit, I will say, is largely irrelevant. Much like everything that the government does is largely irrelevant. They kind of force you to interact with them. And I hate to say it, I say it all the time. People who go into the public sector are just people who didn't want to risk anything or try anything or really work. Okay. They want to force you into their economy. It's like two separate economies. There's the real world and then there's make believe. Okay. And I hate to say it, the type of person who enters the public sector or works for the government, they're a type of person where they were always into, theater. They were kind of always weird, maybe in high school, weird kid. And they never really made friends. They went to college and they never wanted to leave. Okay. But eventually they have to leave. Right. And and we see in this country that many of them don't. They get doctorates and PhDs and just do a bunch of studying, but they never actually take those studies and apply it. They don't want to apply themselves. It's just the differences between human beings at a fundamental level. There's two types of beings. Somebody who wants to get rich quick and not really work for it, and somebody who's willing to put in the work and gain their wages honestly. They do this fake sort of world. It's like a different economy. And they know that people don't like public transit. Librarians, they know that public libraries are largely becoming irrelevant. That's why they're trying to transform them here in the state of Illinois into mental health centers or whatever. They're trying to rebrand them. And it's just kind of funny to watch because over here in the private sector, you've got, people who went to college and, they learned what they needed to learn and now they're applying it. You can do research at a public university like Illinois State University and research a topic into the ground, right? And research and research and research. And you can be a paid researcher, but you're getting paid via taxpayer dollars and tuition. You're getting paid from other people, not because you're providing anything like a service or a product, but just to sit there and study. Okay. Now, in the private sector, corporations do research all the time, research and development, try to make their products better, but they actually apply it and then they provide a product. Okay. So it's just so fascinating to me. And I love how you point this out, Kevin. Public transit system in Chicago and the state, I mean, they are just economically trying to oppress the private sector. They're trying to tax us into oblivion to prop up their thing that they want to work so badly. But they don't want to do anything that makes it better. So, for example, the high-speed rail, they don't actually want to lay any track down and actually do the product. There's been billions allocated for high-speed rail here in the United States, yet we've laid zero track down. And, it's because they don't want to actually provide the service or the product that they're putting the money towards. They want that money to go back to them in an easy way. So they give the money to the union to lay the track down, but they never actually lay the track down, you see. And then they take the money that they got from the taxpayers and then they funnel it back to the politician. So the politician is paid for via the taxpayer, not for providing anything or doing anything, but for simply sitting there. So it's just lazy people. Anyway, all right. Went off the path there. I want to get to this. Trans Nicaraguan. This is funny. This is good stuff. So this trans guy, he's Nicaraguan, like a refugee, I guess. And he is really upset about the food stamps. Okay, so he's just beside himself. And he's wearing a dress video. So I'm going to pull up this video here in just a second. And it was like a report done. Reporter asks him all kinds of questions. He goes by Wendy, and he's complaining that he's going to have to eat once a day now that his food stamps have dried up, and he's moved to tears, as the reporter says, and I think that they're crocodile tears. Something tells me over in Nicaragua, he is going to be eating a lot less there than once a day, okay, in his native country. But I digress. Let's take a watch here. Here we go. Oh, let me actually provide you some volume, right? That might work.
Volunteers at the Shiloh Food Pantry in Oakland were working hard, trying to keep shelves stocked and get groceries to people desperate for food as the government shutdown continues and CalFresh or SNAP food aid is still not flowing.
The line has been literally down the street every day. Yeah, it's a great need. We can hardly keep our refrigerator stocked. It's going out as fast as it comes in.
Outside in that line, we found Sarah, a mother and wife of a government employee who she says hasn't been paid in more than 1 month.
We are living like for savings, things we have, and try to make it work.
Sarah says her husband is an air traffic controller. They moved to Oakland last year. She learned of the food pantry through her daughter's school, and she says they have almost spent all of their savings just trying to stay afloat.
We have a mortgage, we have all the bills we have every month. He's been going to work.
Okay, I've got to talk about this just for a second. I'm going to chime in, and then eventually you'll see the Nicaraguan refugee. I got to chime in a quick second here. She says they're dipping into their savings. Yes. Well, people do this all the time. Businesses go belly up. People get furloughed. People get laid off. There's a billion pizza delivery places, McDonald's. Do what needs to be done temporarily, because that's what would happen. There's this sentiment that they're almost entitled to their job because they are in the public sector. Right? I mean, if I were to lose my job, if I were to, get laid off, what would be my next steps? Find a new job, or get something temporarily, while this government shutdown is taking place. He might want his job as air traffic controller back, but get a different job and work that job until your job comes back online, right? And the beauty of all of this is that this is kind of foreseeable. The government shutdown happens all the time. And, this is the risk of working for the government. And there's risks in the private sector. Businesses go belly up. People get laid off. People get fired. There's risks there. You are not exempt from risk just because you are a government employee. And I don't know. It just bothers me that there's this sense of entitlement. Because you work for the government, you should be shielded from any sort of risk of losing your job.
Every day, so with gas and everything. But we hope the government open again soon.
On Tuesday, President Trump said on social media he would not fund SNAP or food assistance programs until the government reopens. But later, the White House spokesperson said they are complying with the federal judge's orders to use contingency funds for the 1 in 8 Americans who receive food assistance. The average benefit is just $190 a month, and it could take days or even weeks before debit cards can be reloaded for November. On Tuesday, the Alameda County Community Food Bank opened new pop-up tents to help anyone in need of food.
This is day 1 at this location, and so far we've provided food to over 140 different families. We have pop-ups at 4 different Alameda County Social Services Agency locations.
Thank God for the food.
It's almost like people are figuring it out. It's almost like the community steps up and does it themselves when the government doesn't.
This Oakland resident moved to tears, had only been eating 1 meal a day.
I lost my job and I was sick for a couple of months because I expired by me and I couldn't work at the time.
They could just call 211 and they'll get connected with a representative that can kind of talk through their situation and help them figure out what support they might need.
In Oakland, Jana Katsuyama, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
Okay, so you caught this guy here, right? That is the Nicaraguan Wendy. Okay, that's him. Okay, so transgender. And he says that he was only eating one meal a day, according to the reporter, and that he, I guess, got bit by a spider, and that's why he's out of work. Is this even real life? I mean, the fact that food stamp benefits have been rewarded to foreign nationals like this fella here, a Nicaraguan refugee, and this foreign national happens to be wearing a dress. This is just a slap in the face to Americans everywhere who are struggling to make ends meet. Okay. Who approved food stamps for this fella? Could this man potentially be afforded these benefits in perpetuity if the status quo remains unchanged? And it sure seems like people are on food stamps for decades. My parents, they were on food stamps for a couple of years, if that. And then they got off as soon as, my dad got a job, and people are in and out of jobs. They're Americans. He was working at a company, went belly up, right? And had to find something new. And really, it's just supposed to be a get on your feet sort of program. Okay. Call me crazy, but I don't think that this guy's starving. I don't. It certainly doesn't look like that. And maybe you can throw it in the comment section what you think. But the guy goes by the name of Wendy, and he claims he's out of the job. There, you heard it. He claims he's out of a job because a spider bit him, and he's unable to work. So it's kind of unclear how spider bites are an excuse to not work anymore and to receive taxpayer benefits, taxpayer-funded benefits. But something tells me it has something to do with Joe Biden, a Nicaraguan refugee. I think that a lot of these refugees were just getting government programs, government funded or taxpayer funded benefits just because they were refugees. And I think that it had something to do with Potato Joe Biden, who used to live in the White House. That is probably why. The spider bite, I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that automatically qualifies you or makes you eligible for taxpayer funded benefits, but whatever. My question would be, can anyone claim that they've been bit by a spider and then receive these food stamp benefits? Or is this only a privilege for foreign nationals? And really, I think that's what it was. He probably got on the food stamps once he came here, and I don't know exactly, but once he came here as a refugee, I'd imagine, under the potato, Joe Biden, his White House, his regime, they just gave you automatically taxpayer-funded benefits. But I'll leave that up to you for interpretation. What's even crazier is that he says that he's unable to work because the bite left him not able to walk. And I don't know about you. I mean, I was watching this guy. Let me try to rewind a little bit. I bet you could probably see. I don't know if he's in heels or not. It kind of looks like that, maybe. You can't quite see. But he's in a dress, and it appears that he's walking. Right? He's got jewelry on. He's got a nice bag there. He's got, a decent dress. I mean, it's not like rags or anything. This is kind of a dress that I don't know if I would buy that. Honestly, it's transgender men, men pretending to be women. The gaudy jewelry, like this is not something that women would wear. And it's really hilarious to watch men pretending to be women try to pretend to be women because they have no fashion sense at all. Now, I'm not a fashionable person. I'm like a t-shirt and jeans type person. I've always been kind of tomboy-esque. But I mean, I know when somebody's trying too hard. The gaudy jewelry, this dress is, kind of out there, very flamboyant. Most modern women dress, not for attention or to look like a little girl. That's one thing that I noticed with the trans men or the trans women. I don't know what you call them. Men pretending to women. They do exaggerate their clothing. They almost try to look like Bratz dolls, or they try to look like little girls. whether that's like heart jewelry or butterfly jewelry or, frilly dresses or pink shoes. You never see a modern woman in America dressing like that. Anyway, I don't know. He says that the spider bite wasn't enabled, caused him not to be able to walk. He looks like he's walking to me, right? So seems like we're affording this guy benefits and we shouldn't be. And I think that this guy is probably a reason why people are calling for mass reform or the elimination of SNAP totally. So that being said, maybe this guy is hungry. I don't know. I don't know Wendy. And maybe Wendy is one of those individuals who are just really, really hungry. I don't know. But my 2 cents is this guy seems to be walking. This guy seems to be able-bodied. Perhaps he just got the food stamp benefits because he's a Nicaraguan refugee. I don't think it has anything to do with a spider bite in causing him not to be able to walk. But you can draw whatever conclusions you want. I'm just looking at what was reported, what I'm seeing with my eyes, and I'm not buying the spider bite crap. I'm not buying that this guy is starving. I'm not buying that he's having 1 meal a day. I'm not buying that he should be on food stamps. All right. I think that's going to do it for us today. I appreciate you being here this morning. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Try going to a foreign country and getting free food and healthcare. Yeah, Nicaragua, you probably wouldn't even be able to get 1 meal a day, his native country. Most likely he'd go back if he were to be there. He would not get even 1 meal a day. And the meal that he does get might be loaded with diseases and bacteria that causes him to get sick. Okay, that's just the reality. And you should be grateful that you've been on food stamps for as long as you have been because of your spider bite. Right? But I'm not seeing thankfulness. I'm not seeing an appreciation for this country. I'm seeing him get all upset because his food stamps are temporarily revoked. Something that I don't even think that he should really have. He doesn't appear to be starving to me. All right. You guys have a blessed rest of your day. I'll get to one more comment before I go. I was at the grocery store and this huge he-she guy spoke over the store intercom trying to sound like a woman. It was hilarious. Yeah, they don't do a great job. And like I said, you can spot usually, I don't know, with surgeries and things, it's getting harder and harder to tell. But most transgenders, I don't know what Nicaraguan culture is like, but most transgenders, they don't put a whole lot of effort into it. And really, I think, and I'm not saying this guy, but a lot of the transgenders, they don't actually do it because they deeply, deeply feel there is a population of trans women out there, men pretending to be little girls, who are predators. Okay, they pretend to be women. Why? Because women are more approachable. Think about it. Men aren't as approachable on the street. Like if you were to approach anybody on the street to ask directions, are you going to ask the big burly guy who looks scary, might have a leather jacket on, or are you going to ask the woman in a sundress, right? They're more approachable. And, especially if they exaggerate their appearances to almost look like caricatures. There's a portion of the transgender population and community where they aren't actually feeling like they're a woman trapped in a man's body. They are pretending to be a woman to be more approachable. They are dressing in a flamboyant way to attract children, okay, to them and to befriend children. Children will always approach a woman over a man. Why? Because women are nurturers and their mother. And that's that is a tactic that predators use. much like in the prison system, they don't want to be housed with men, right? The criminals, because they're going to get beat up. And typically they're pedophiles who come out later and say, hey, actually, I'm transgender. I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. And they're doing that so that way they get housed with the women, and they don't get beat up for being a pedophile in the men's prison. So, yeah, there's definitely, they're dangerous. I don't know why people say like, oh, homophobia or transphobia is like a bad thing. Like, naturally, you're going to be afraid of somebody who clearly is on hormones, or is, is very unsure of their identity and who they are. You're naturally going to be afraid. I'm naturally going to be afraid of the man who's in a little girl dress, and could beat the hell out of me, but has the female emotions. You know what I mean? Because of all the hormones that she is taking. Okay. So, yeah, the whole transphobia thing. Yeah, there's justified phobias. I think that, if you're a woman, and there was this viral clip actually of a guy at a Gold's Gym, and this woman, she, comes out of the locker room and she starts yelling. I think her name was Tish Hyman. She went off on Gold's Gym for allowing men in women's lockers rooms, and she said that he was staring at her, and she was naked, right? She's in the locker room, and she, is upset by that. Like, yeah, that is a natural fear. You're in a vulnerable position, naked, in the locker room, possibly going to the bathroom, in vulnerable state. And you've got this big man who could overpower you, and Tish Hyman, she, was going to the gym. So she's kind of ripped for a lady. But this guy could have easily taken her because he's a man. Right? So there's natural phobias. Men are scared of men pretending to be women because you don't know how to interact. Usually you're supposed to be more gentle with women. With men, you can kind of be more crass, maybe a little bit more blunt. But you don't really know how to interact with a man pretending to be a woman as a man. So women have this natural fear because, okay, this is a guy in my vulnerable space. He could overpower me, because of his size. But for men, they are in a position of fear, and not knowing, and confusion, because how do I treat this person? Do I treat them with, being gentle as I would treat a woman, or do I treat them as if I would treat a man? I'm kind of confused how to treat this person, or approach this person. So yeah, rational phobias. There's nothing wrong with a good, healthy, rational phobia. Keeps you safe. So smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys Monday morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Bye-bye. Love you so much.